Are you wasting your time and money on inefficiencies in the business? Are sales down and lead conversion rates are low? Are you having problems building or maintaining inventory levels? What does it really take to win in the automotive industry?
Get the cars that make sense for your store rather than just wishing at an auction. So it gives you that better control.
With over 25 years of experience, Daryl the Wolf Steed isn't just another industry voice. He's the guy who's out there solving real problems for dealers just like you.
They'll even say in the Pacific Northwest where you're at that it's a tougher market. It's, it's tougher to find cars. The market's a little bit softer. And in the midst of all this, your turn doubled and your profit's up 75%.
Yes.
The truth hurts only when it should. Are you ready to hear the truths? Daryl is here to unpack the hard truths and the proven strategies that will take your dealership from struggling to soaring. And he is taking it all in the streets, with real talk, open dialogue, unfiltered conversations. This is the podcast series, Street Smarts, powered by Smart Wolf Consulting.
Good evening, everybody. This is Daryl Steed over at Street Smarts, powered by Smart Wolf Consulting. We have a mystery guest, and you can see him right now. It's Jason Rice, the CEO of Lot Pop. Super excited. We're at Used Car Week, guys, in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's one of these type of events where if you're thinking about used cars and you're here to learn, we've got every vendor and then some. But what's really great about the event and doing this is that we have the ability to not only learn, but really get the real conversations going. And so as we take it to the streets, as everyone knows that's seen the first podcast and the ones that are coming up, is we always ask our guests, where are they winning in life? So Jason, how is life going? Where are you winning? What's going like great in your life right now?
Oh, wow. I would say probably family right now. I just came off my birthday. We went down to the lake this weekend, and we got a place that we just stay down there, and it's fun. So it was great to celebrate with family and friends. We had some good friends down there doing that, and that's why I did what I do. I walked away from what I've had in a career with a very good company and that's how I started Lot Pop, to be able to be home for my family. And so I would always go back to that right now.
So you guys, and if you guys don't know, Jason worked for the big elephant in the car business. He worked for Cox Automotive for quite some time, running one of their key industries. And then now he has Lot Pop, which if you guys don't know what that is, I'll be 100% honest. It is probably one of the most influential traffic drivers there is to understanding retail. Now, why is that important in Street Smarts? And I do used car acquisition and building buying centers. Well, simply put, guys, you can't buy tons and tons and tons of cars if you don't know how to sell them, because you'll create your own aging problem. So you've probably seen with other people that like, I want to buy all kinds of cars and I want to get to that point. However, how do you get to that point if you don't have a good retail strategy? And that's kind of what Lot Pop does. So knowing that we have Jason on the show, Jason, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the market right now that's kind of getting really unique, especially with what's happening at the auctions.
Well, let me pick on what you just said. It's funny, when I was with Viato, I had a VP there. They're giving me opportunity to do a workshop, and they said, come up with something. So I came up with like these 5 pillars of inventory management. And obviously marketing is one of them. And I actually had marketing first, and I had stocking at the bottom. And my VP didn't like that. He thought stocking should be at the top, that, the profits made at the acquisition, that's where you make your money. You got to buy the right cars. I said, I agree with that. Now, what you do is a little bit different, but I said, I agree with that. I said, I agree, but marketing's got to be more important, because here's the thing with inventory stocking. One, if you're a heavily traded store, if you're 3-to-1 new to used and stuff like that, where you mostly do trade-ins, you can't control what you end up on the lot and what you're appraising that day. And you end up taking in some crappy cars just to sell that aged unit, right? So the other thing is, how many times have we gone to an auction run list and we have 200 cars or 2,000 cars, and we put numbers on 200 cars and we get outbid on every one of them but one, right? And then we end up scrambling to go to Enterprise and buy 10 Malibus because I need, 11 units this week. And so no matter what you're buying, good or bad, a good marketing plan can get rid of a bad car, and a bad marketing plan can make a good car sit. You know, some people think, well, you got the right car, they'll come to you. Yeah, but not if the car's dirty, nasty, and you price it too high and so forth, right? So,
Sure.
you know, obviously it's a combination of everything, but building buying centers, you do have a lot of control what you're buying and not buying, and that's the hard part. That's the rare of the rare, right? How many dealerships actually have the dedicated department that does thousands of bids and picks and choose what they want to keep and don't keep, and that's far and few between. So, anyways, that's one thing, and that's what I like about what you guys are doing as far as helping these dealers do this, because, gosh dang, especially since COVID, the acquisition on these cars are getting tougher and tougher. But I'll also point out, circling back, even the right cars you're getting, man, there's less and less customers right now. So it's a tougher to get. I always tell dealerships you either get to step up or stand out. When they're like, well, I can't compete with this guy and they're pricing them too cheap and we do this and we do that with our cars, so we shouldn't be so cheap. And I'm like, well, then stand out. Tell people that. Do videos. Do something to stand out, or you're gonna have to step up to that price and just compete. And so I think that's really crucial right now, is dealers are getting that reality that they just can't throw a car out there and hope it sells. It's just not going to work right now.
So before we do that, guys, because this is the first live, we're going to try to do something. So give me 1 second. We're going to see if we can't make this a little bit better for you guys. There we go. So 1 second. This is what live's all about, guys. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get into the same frame. There we go. Street smart. Sometimes we're smart. Sometimes we're not.
Yes.
However, guys, so he said something about step up or stand out. Now, that I think is going to be the whole topic today, because that is kind of where I come in and build an acquisition center. So buying cars, is it easy? Anyone that tells you it's easy, I promise you they're lying to you. It's not. It's one of the hardest things to do. However, when you think about that, stepping up, standing out, I have quite a few clients now with Smart Wolf Consulting. And today we dropped the Street Smarts Web Academy. But everyone says, well, I don't want to pay more than CarMax. I don't want to pay more than Carvana, EchoPark, any of these competitors. I'm like, okay, well, then what do you do that's different than them? What do you do that is either convenient, time, experience, whatever it may be? Pick something that's relative to the customer, not to you. And what do you do? Because people will take less. I know that it's hard to believe this, but I'll put in this episode as soon as it goes live, or as we're live, I'll put in there the URL, and you'll see a testimonial on there from one of the people in one of my clients. He will tell you he gets the cars less than CarMax all the time because of the reviews or because of the video engagement. And so you really do have to understand, if you want that car, it's competitive. Manheim just came out with the results. 95% cost to market is the average sell right now, which I don't even know how you make money now. You're just buying cars to operate. So you have to have a different strategy to not eliminate the auctions, but have that as a piece. So you're either going to have to step up and be competitive, or you're going to have to realize it's now about the experience. But like what you do, what I think is really unique is, guys, when you're looking at this, you can have data at your fingertips and you can buy. And a lot of people say, I don't know where to start or what to do. Well, now there's a solution. Like, you can actually say, hey, this is what we do well. This is what the market's doing. And like when we were in Chicago, what I thought was interesting is, if you need the auction, you sold a car, go get it, right? You can replace it right away. But now you can be more proactive about it.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear, when you're seeing this now, the market's changing and that stepping up and standing out, how do they do that on the retail side, right? Because I'm buying, there's lots of different things you can do. But on the retail side, how do they do that, understanding, looking at the market?
As far as standing out, or just
but either one, like, how do you, like, what do you think when they do acquisition? Like, how do they either stand up or stand out, or step up or stand out to the customer in just the different dynamics of the country? Like, what can they do outside of just paying more money? What does that mean?
Well, here, standing out as I mean, I'll go down to the basics. You know, it's just a couple things, and this sounds stupid, but how many I would say 90% of the dealership's websites I go, and maybe I'm exaggerating there, don't even have a staff page, right? They don't even have their personnel, or if they do, there's no pictures there, or the pictures, one's taken in this area of the dealership, one at the other, and just looks like they did it. So, I mean, put bios and put some stories behind these people, because that's where you stand out against the Carvanas of the world, right? You don't get to deal with that local person that might be, you know, some kid of somebody you work with at the office, right? Or some, so you definitely just staff page alone, because then that puts you in the dealer better rankings. I mean, shoot, we're just at cars.com, you know, something like a dealer rater, right? And be able to let them build out their own what you call it, bio or profile, right? And their brand and market, let them build their brand, I should say that. And I think because people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? So just that alone. But also, I mean, to me, it was like photo order and so forth. And what I mean by that, like, you know, get the goodies at the beginning. That's one of the things we try to teach the dealers is, you know, take that first shot, outside shot, but then I typically want the photo order like you do a walk around. Open the door, shot. Sit them behind the steering wheel controls, do the dash with the backup cameras and the navs, do the sunroof, do the heated seats, pull them around to the back seats, show them the leg room,
Sure.
Fold the seats down, show them the cargo space, 70-30, 60-40, whatever it is, fold those seats down. And then just make that experience easier as you're going through cars and flipping through. It's so aggravating when you're like, okay, does this car have a sunroof? 20 photos, 30, oh, there's the sunroof, right? And if your phone dies, or not dies, but if you're locked up or, get this stuff that you want to promote on that car that makes that car stand out. Put that at the very beginning of your photos. Even if you've got the 360 thing, do two different sets or something. Do that set originally. Because I don't tell dealers, go out there and spend more time taking photos. Don't do outside photo, then inside photos, back to the outside. Just take them the normal way so your 360 would work, and then do another set and get them in the order to get them the way customers want it to be. And then, of course, get that in the top of the comments. They're not going to read a paragraph of why do business with you because you do oil changes and tire rotations on every car you buy, right? Just get the good stuff at the beginning. Then plug in some videos in there. I encourage dealers to do videos and stuff about, again, the service work that they do on these cars, how they're involved in the community, what they maybe donate to, what to be involved in the community. So it's just little things like that and get the reviews, right? Because and get the reviews on all these sites. That's the hard part. You got Cars giving Auto Trader giving reviews, Kelley Blue Book, Dealer Rater reviews, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, right? And most people will probably, if they give you one, will only give you on one platform. But those type of reviews are important too. But I would also say when you buy stuff, and I have some type of a unique approach sometimes to buying things. And what I mean by that, like in vAuto or these sites, you can see what people are searching for or what they're not searching for, but clicking on. It was funny, like back in the day when I was helping these dealers, I don't know if you remember like Suzuki XL7s.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. In vAuto, they'd have these grades, A, B, C's, and D's or whatever. And like demand was very low. No one's going looking for Suzuki XL7, but interest was really high. It was like a 9 out of 10 or whatever grade it was, because they would just say, hey, I want a 25 grand SUV. Sure. And then they click on it. So no one was searching for it, but people were clicking on it. So then the next step in my eyes was, okay, look at the reviews. If you got a car that people are clicking on, and it's a Kelley Blue Book reliability rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars or 4.7, right? Customers are going to feel comfortable with that car. So I think if you just take a little bit of a different approach too on not just what people are searching for, but what they're actually clicking on and or maybe buying in the market. Except for cars like that were just such a smaller number and there's not going to be volume, but they were really good catches, because that's the thing. If no one's searching on them online, no one's at the lane fighting you for them as much either. So you got to buy them a little bit cheaper too than everybody else. So anyways, those are especially photos, staff pages, things like that, I think is ways to help.
Well, no, I think that it's great you say that, because so guys, we're talking about how you retail and you stand out. Now, what's interesting about this, right, is we've put in all this time for years, right? We take pictures, and I agree with you. Some are great and some are not so great. Does the experience for the customer, is it the same way you'd show the car? Or do we take them out of order because it says that's how it's supposed to be done, or it's how it was in the filter, and you don't think about how the customer does that? Can you imagine someone that's, let's just say 5'5", 5'6", if they got in the back seat and put their legs straight out and took a picture and showed how much leg room it would be? That immediately like, wow, it's got a leg room. Now you can push the seat up and everything else, but you just want to show them, right? Because then they see it.
I'm smiling because I had a dealer who the staff did that. They pushed the seats all the way forward to show more leg room. But the bad thing is the driver's seats were real tight. I'm like, guys, I'm 6'3". I can't, there's no way I'm going to fit in that freaking car. Make sure they move the seats back when you do the front
do
shots.
both sides so you can see it.
It was like, my goodness.
But what I think is really interesting too is on the acquisition side, right? So we talk about reviews, we talk about pictures. It's very similar, right? If you don't get reviews, so people are like, oh, and I always laugh because you see the old school dealers. And when I say old school, just the ones that still think the internet's the devil, okay? And they'll put the sign on the side of their store and it says, we buy cars. But then when you walk in, they don't even know what you're talking about. They're like, we're here to sell you something. And it's if you have Google reviews or you get Facebook or any of these other things, so like one of the clients I have did Dealer Rater, and instead of their used car store, we made it the buying center. So they became one of the highest rated reviews places, but it was a buying center, which had never been done before.
Yeah.
Which now you're sending that out to people. They've already proved this with that company. We don't really talk about them much, but that company that's kind of like, not so hard to find, Yelp. When you pay them, magically your reviews show up. When you don't, they don't. But they've done all these surveys on Yelp and Google and all these things of people will trust the opinion of a review more than they'll trust an opinion of someone they know. Now you think about that. So if we say, hey, it's a terrible restaurant, and I say, yeah, you don't want to eat it. Like I say, it's great. You'll still go look at the reviews. And if you see it's like a 1-star, you're like, you'll make up an excuse and be like, yeah, I'm not that hungry, Daryl. You're good, man. No, don't get me anything. Because people actually trust. Why would someone put a review on something if they why would they lie?
Yeah.
So you also have to build that experience on the acquisition side, because at the end of the day, you don't want to step up. You don't want to overpay for cars, however you interpret that. And you don't want to be as competitive. Well, then what are you doing to make people believe that you're a better situation? Whether it's paying on the spot, getting the reviews, do you do that? And then when you're talking about videos, I would take it one further. So I really promote when I do anything for stores to get testimonials from customers and get those video reviews. And that's how it used for your advertising, because then you don't have to pay. You can put it on social media and that will generate tons of activity by itself. Why are you not doing that when you sell someone a car? Get a testimonial and put that in your reel. Because you're going through and like as a customer, a little 20-second blip of when I bought a car from them, it was great and everything. And don't edit it. Do not try to sit there and go Hollywood.
Yeah.
Make it unfiltered, right?
I've seen people do that for trade-ins. Ask the customer, hey, what did you really like about this car? Oh, I love this. I love that. I'm only trading in because of this, and use that to promote and try to sell that trade too. That I think that's helpful. But when I was talking about our videos, would be even just the reconditioning. I always tell dealers this, hey, take a video, and it could take you 30 minutes and you can stitch it down, but do a video from a car from the very beginning of getting it, even if it's dirty, to the very end through service and the brakes and the mechanic working on to the detail guy. And then do 2 of those, one for regular car and one for your CPO. And then have those videos looping on the showroom floor. So when you say people, when they come in and you're like, hey, hold on, give me a couple minutes, I'll go grab the keys. In the meantime, watch this video, let you see what kind of work we do. And then use those videos, even if it's a 5-10 minute loop video, clip it down to like a 30-second one and get that into your cars.com listing and Auto Trader listings, again, to kind of stand out, because that's where a lot of the money is being spent, is in that recon work. And so many dealers say, well, we do this and we do that to our cars. Well, no one knows that. No one sees it. And it's no different than when a customer tries to trade in a car and they go, well, we just put brand new tires on it, so it's worth more. And you go, well, no, they're supposed to have tires, right? It's supposed to have good tires, right? So it's not worth more. It just so the same thing should be said when you go, well, we do this and we do that. Well, customers like, well, yeah, I'm buying a car from especially a franchise dealer. They assume a lot of that stuff's being taken care of.
It's funny you say that too about if you did a recon video, because if any of you guys haven't seen this, Highline dealers will know what I'm talking about. Our luxury dealers is these newer stores. I went into a BMW store, then I went into a Porsche store, and then a Mercedes store, and their shops are now transparent glass. So you're looking in there, and the reason why is that exact same thing. Is you're seeing the car being worked on, how everything's up on platforms or on the lift, nothing's on the ground. And the reason why is they want you to understand this is the level of service you're going to get. So when you take that extra step, and I get it, we're talking about putting in a little bit of extra effort, which that's work, and I get it. A lot of the people don't like doing that because they're like, well, I want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of profit. However, profit has started to be regenerated back in, especially on used cars, I think, is that the compression's really tight now. It's really getting tight. So it is that white glove service of you need to have an experience for people to want to pay up for it.
Yeah.
If you're just going to move metal, let's not be surprised, right? Or performing insanity of saying I don't understand why we're getting the same results when we do the same exact thing. The market has changed to where people are if they're going to pay more, or you expect to pay less, your service has to be up and above your competitors.
Yeah.
You can't just, we have the car. We're back to the old car business. COVID was a little blip. You got to make all the money and everything else. But now we're back to you have to provide an experience and a service. And, when it comes to those used cars, we're seeing everything compressed. I heard today that lease returns or leases, they were anticipating to be at 1.1 million for the quarter, in the first quarter or second quarter, but now they're expecting for the first quarter of 2025 to be down to 500,000 for the country, which of course, what does that mean? cars are going to be compressed even more. So like the market's not getting flush with used cars anymore. Like it is going to be one of these things for quite the long term, right? Is that this is something we're going to have to deal with. So it's like, what do you do, right? Yeah. Are you acquiring? Are you on the hope plan where you're like, I hope we do that? And then, we get into trades. So I'll be speaking tomorrow about trades and acquisition. Is like, how are you not looking at every car as a retail proposition? Yeah. I talked to a store today. I was baffled. I actually want to talk to them more because baffled. They sell 350 new cars a month. They take in about 40% trade conversion, what they put in Viata. So we all don't know if that's real or not, but based on their look to book, that's what they put. So they're taking in 100 and some odd trades, and they only sell like 60 used cars. They wholesale like 80% of their cars. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, it's not worth the hassle. I like at that conversation, I was just like, we have stores that are looking for cars. And these guys are like, nah, we're not really in that, which is really odd because that's kind of where profit is right now.
Yeah, because you're not running a 1-for-1 right now. That's a dangerous business. Like, especially a Nissan store or Chrysler. I mean, you got to be doing 3-to-1 right now.
If you're in those stores.
I used the new.
But so I talked to him a little bit now why they do that. I said, well, they keep all the cars that they can get through the shop quickly, but they don't want comebacks. They don't want this. And I'm like, okay, but isn't that where the profit's made? So again, it's that difference in strategy now that we're seeing people.
Well, that's like, the saying. You're saying you don't want to take care of your customers? I mean, yeah.
Or more importantly, they don't want the service profits because they don't realize that's a profit center, right? Because you have someone that's like, I only worry about the sales side. They don't understand the service. So part of that is the education part of it too. Or you don't want to take care of your customers. Why wouldn't you want to get them a cheap, reliable car? Yeah. With payments being what, $1,100 a month on average now or something? It's something insane. Like if you can get someone a $25,000 car. That's what people are looking for, a $30,000 car. No one's looking for the 70.
I mean, no different than why they sell an Altima, the movie up to Maxima, the movie up to, or why they sell Focus, movie up to Fusion, then Escape, and then eventually, Explorer, then maybe an F-150. It's an intro. So get somebody on a 15, 20 grand car, and they keep coming back as they keep upgrading, and do what the manufacturers do.
Now, knowing how the business is going and what you see in your side of it, is where do you think the biggest challenge lies, whether it's acquisition, retailing, where do you think the biggest challenge lies in the next probably 6 months for dealers? What are they going to be facing that you're seeing?
I mean, here, it's always going to go back to acquisitions, but that's been forever thing. At least last 10 years, I think acquisitions, everybody's looking for that honey hole. But it goes way beyond that because once you buy the car, then what? What are you going to do about it? And I really think, and this is the other part of standing out is that going to be that follow-up. If there's less leads now here, hopefully the economy goes better, people feel more positive as the election's over and behind us, and this whole new administration's promising new things, whatever. Even if things get better, one of two things happen. When it slows down, we weren't doing enough work prior to make up for that difference. What we're not selling today has to do with not what we didn't do today. It had to do with what you didn't do last month, right? When our activity. So the other thing is the economy good, the busier we are selling cars, the less we have in follow-up. So we let all this crap, and that's what happened with COVID. We were just so busy selling cars, people walking in, paying whatever. And so we weren't when things slowed down, a lot of dealerships weren't following up with people during that time. So when things slowed down, you got other people's business that you followed up with for 16 plus 90 days. Because here's the thing, I was doing internet since 1998. We've always followed up with leads based on the age of the lead. I get a fresh lead, I'm going to call them and email them every day for about 5 days. And then after a week or two, it's once a week. And after a month or so, it's once a week, every other week. And then after a certain amount of time, you give up on them. But here's the thing. When we get a lead, we don't know if they're 2 days out or 2 months out. Somebody might have just totaled their car. They know they're going to get a check. So they're, shopping online. I would submit a lead just to kind of mark that car to go back to it. But what if it takes 3 or 4 weeks for that check to show up? You've already given up on me. Matter of fact, maybe even the vehicle's sold. But guess what? That means I got to buy something else. And so if some of those scenarios, I give it a stat out, is like 70% of what we find, because we integrate inventory and CRMs together in our lot walk tool. 70% of customers on cars no longer in stock. This car sold. They submit a lead, 2 weeks later, the car sells. Well, if I've been calling and emailing for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks and no one's answered the phone and they're on the car that's sold, they're going to typically move that car to loss or lead to loss. And you don't want to do that. Because again, we don't know if they're 2 days out, 2 months out. They might, that 30-day-old lead might have just got their check from insurance, but they're on a sold car, you gave up on them. And that's where you get the standout, say good news, bad news. Bad news is that that truck you were interested in sold. Good news is I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to help you. Are you just looking for a black F-150 at 40 grand? You open other trucks around 40 grand because I've got other options for you. And if you're there with a good intention, people are always going to do business with you. So I do think regardless of the economy or not, because things slow down, what is going to happen? Well, we're going to get turnover. And when we get turnover, no one's going to be a professional enough or long enough to actually help us through that slowdown, right? And then when things are busy, everybody's busy. They're too busy to sit down and actually follow up with customers or to care because they just did a hat trick. And so we find that, what happens is when things slow down, calls and emails go up. Then what happens next week? Sales go up because of what we did last week. And then what happens next week? Our calls and emails go down. Why? Because we're busy selling cars. And there's this flow. It's the same with stocking, right? Yep. All of a sudden we got enough cars and we get a big push in a weekend. Then we got to scramble and buy cars. And we're about there buying cars. And then we sit or we had a slow first half. So we stopped buying, busy second half, and we start buying again. And so as we go through these ups and downs, both with stocking and with follow-up, if you just stay going back to what we talked, look at your last 2 weeks sale rate. If you've been selling 50 in 2 weeks, times that by 2, that puts you on pace to sell 100, carry at that level, but always be stocking and figure out that number. Whatever you sold in 2 weeks should be in your 0 to 15 bucket. A lot of guys have an inventory tool that, have 0, 15, 60. Because think about it. If I sold 30 cars in 2 weeks, I better have at least 30 that are less than 2 weeks old to replace
what you had.
So that's your stocking level. And then regardless or not, and that's where I'm not a BDC guy. I don't like all my leads going into a BDC. I say that because if I have a BDC, I want them professional enough to know sold cars for a while. So they know if I trade a car into, I get a tax break. If I want leather, do I go 1SD or 1SC or what do I got? I want somebody professional enough to handle that. If your BDC is not like that, I'd rather have a sales professional handling those leads and then a BDC as a backup.
Sure.
And so that goes back to my follow-up. Always be stocking so you're not up and down in your stocking levels. And then always be following up. And if your sales team's busy selling, have that BDC backing them up to keep that constant flow of activities on those leads.
No, it's great when you talk about follow-up. Like the biggest challenge, right, we know is acquisition in the sense of like what is a constant issue. But talking about follow-up, right, and understanding that we keep getting on that repetitive cycle, right, which is, when we did the thing in Chicago and SpeedZack said like the average thing was 10 cars, is we expect different results, but we're doing the same behaviors. Is how do you make sure that they're doing follow-up and they say like, okay, guys, we need to make this many calls a day or text or emails or whatever it may be, because once you have that consistency, now you know what you're going to get. Yep. But then it's, okay, and you're right, if we know the inventory is sold, we just give up. I mean, that's typical of almost any dealership in the country. I'm not going to say all because there are some that have figured it out. But it's like, guys, why wouldn't you ask in the first call? Like, okay, hey, you're looking at that. Like, I know I train for acquisition, I go, are you like, ask them, are they selling in the next, today, tomorrow? Like, are they immediate? Are they in the next 7 days, 2 weeks? Are they more in the month out? Because some people are in the research phase. They just are. And then some people are ready to go. And it's like, okay, well, now you can dictate your tone and your follow-up based on what they're doing. Doesn't mean if they say they're a month out, I'm not waiting a month. No. But I'm also not hitting them for the first 7 days either, because like they just told me, I'm going to give them 10 days, 2 weeks, and say, just checking in with you. I know that you said you're there. What I wanted to let you know, and you're giving them updates. That's sold, but this is when you think about that is, are we addressing the things at hand, or are we still just going like this? Well, this is how we've always done it. We hope that this is what happens, right? And so,
I'd hit on that too. We used to be guilty of it. We started this company 11 years ago, and we've been helping dealers with lead management through this. And it's just over the last couple of years, we've combined these two and seen new metrics. Years ago, we would say activities per lead, right? Yep. If guys say, hey, you got 100 leads, you did 400 activities, calls and emails, that's 4 activities per lead. All right, let's get you to 8, 10, 12. Our dealers that are in those double digits, 15 to 20. As soon as you did that, you seen appointments and show all went up. It made sense, right? But then I go look at inventory and leads, and I go, hold on a second. And here's another stat. Half your leads are on 10% of your inventory. So if you have 100 cars, half your leads, which means half your calls and emails are being done on just 10 cars, but half your cars have no leads. So I said, we can't do activities per lead. We need to be doing activities per car, because all that activity is just being done on half of my inventory and a good chunk of it on 10%. But what about half these cars? I got screenshots of 50, 60-day-old cars with no leads. Well, then that means my team, especially a BDC that doesn't know my cars, they're just doing scripts. They don't even know I have a 2020 Escape that's 55 days old that has no leads, because they only work cars they get leads on. But if you talk about switch opportunities, these active leads on cars that are sold and don't give up on them, you go, you have 20 people looking for an SUV around 22 grand. What if we just called half of them? That'll be 10 activities on that Escape that doesn't have any leads. So we start looking at activities per car instead of activities per lead, because again, half your cars have no leads on them. But then you go back to stocking and you go, well, let's look at the cars we sold that got a lot of activity or a lot of leads, right? So I had a 2019 F-150 Lariat, and I sold it in 20 days at 98% and made $2 grand. Maybe I want to buy another one, but I'm going, yeah, you got 5 active leads on that car. You don't have to search for a market. You get to buy that car, and you already have 5 people in your database ready to buy that car. Yeah. So go do that and start stocking to your lead activity too. So that's why you never want to move customers to lost and give up on them. So you have that data and say, hey, a good chunk of my leads are coming in on trucks around 30 to 40 grand. Let's buy some more 30 to 40 grand trucks. And then when I do buy them, I've already got a database of people to sell them to, and I don't have to go chase it.
So
find it.
Guys, as we're sitting here talking, right, and we've got an event we're going to get to, but I want to kind of wrap it up with this, guys. So we're talking about, you're stepping up or you're standing out, right? But what he just said, and which I think is a great way to kind of wrap things up, is when you're looking at this, the business has changed in the sense of this. We still sell cars, we still buy cars, we still service cars. Nothing's changing there. But where I think it's really changed, and we really need to understand, if we decide we're going to stay in the old regime, you're just going to lose your hair and you're going to lose your mind, because it's the same thing. Is the business now needs to have very specific focuses. So when he's talking about, okay, you have these leads, then you go buy these cars. The old school used car manager, right? Or the old paradigm is this guy desks, he buys cars, he prices cars, he does everything. And then the desk managers do all these things. You really need to look at, okay, how are you setting this up to have focus on these type of things? Who does that? And don't say your internet director who then does your marketing and everything else, and you're trying to throw one more thing on him. I think you really need to look at it as, yeah, maybe people make a little less than what they did, but do they have to do as many jobs? Is if you had someone focused saying, okay, this is the guy that says, okay, he looks at all these things and then can assign or then run that follow-up strategy or that consistency, would you make more deals, which in turn, everyone makes more money, right? But we try to give people 10 or 15 jobs and say, hey, I want you to go be a superstar at all these. And then they wonder why they're missing stuff. Well, because I can't look at 15 things, guys. I'll tell you right now, if you told me, Daryl, how do you order new cars that are really effective? I'd be like, lose my number. I have no idea.
Good at a lot, not great at any.
Yeah, I said, but if you told me, okay, how do I do used cars and acquisition? I was like, listen, there's maybe 1 or 2 people that can do it as well as I do it. And the reason why is I honed in on that. And I know that I don't do other things as well, but you know what? That's what other people are for. So I think as we wrap this up, is that we need to really think about, as we're in the streets and we're thinking about this, how do we take control back of our dealership and how of our profits? One, get the right tools, right? Whether it's the street smarts, whether it's lot pop, because you need the data and you need the understanding to get to where you want. Then 2, what's your focus and how you're going to get there? Don't just shoot from the hip. Come up with a concise plan, and then who's going to work it for you, right? Put the right people in the right places.
Well, I say, yeah, I mean, it's so different. I've got a company, and as companies, you can have a fractional CFO, right? I don't have somebody on my team, and I'm not going to pay somebody on my team to be my CFO. So I have a fractional CFO, or I might have a fractional assistant or HR, right? And so to your point, that's the thing. If you don't, you don't want to be good at a lot and not great at any, right? So if you don't have somebody in your team, you can get a fractional buyer. Go hire Daryl and his team to buy cars. Us with Lot Pop, we do weekly calls, and we're like a used car, like a fractional used car director, along with the internet director, because we're going to be managing those. So if you don't, that allows your person that's a great new car guy to focus on that, or that great appraiser to focus on that, right? Or that great TO to go focus, person that TOs deals. Let them focus on that instead of, I got to buy a bunch of cars. I ain't got time to TO your deal, right? So.
To what you're saying too, when you get those fractionals or the consultants or the specialists, it also does one thing that I think people miss is you get those because they're specialized and they can get it done for you. Or they can put you in the right direction. Is now you can focus on the in-store customer, which is where it's at. Once they get there, you got to focus on them. So if you don't get them there, that's a problem. But once they're there, you have people that okay, now deliver the experience, right? So
that's what I was designed. When we do those weekly calls and we go through your inventory, it's like, hey, let's take that time and do that. That way you're not tied up doing it all week long. You can go TL deals and
You
do
can
stuff
do the
you're good
things
at.
you need to do, right?
that-
Make the money when the money's there. Don't sit there and lose the money because you're worried about all the other things. Well, guys, listen, we're going to go get some dinner. We're going to have a good time tonight and learn some more things. But I want to thank you, Jason, for coming on the show. And you guys, we're at Used Car Week. If you have questions, put them in the comments. This is on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and we will answer them. And if there's anything that comes up, you guys, listen, we always take it to the streets. We try to give you guys the best information we can with the people that are on, and we hope you enjoyed it. And listen, if you learned one thing today, that's what we're hoping for, because that's how we get better, is learning one thing a day and then making it better for everyone out there.